Hello, hello. We're back with another conversation as part of the Parent Tween Foundation Empowerthon. If I haven't had the opportunity to meet you in person yet, my name is Clarissa Constantine, and I'm actually the founder of the Parent Tween Connection. What is Parent Tween Connection? Well, we're where parents go when they don't know where to go. We connect parents to each other and also to the professionals who can support them. And one of those folks that I'd love to introduce you to is Kelly Haugh. Kelly, hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I am great. I am thrilled to have you with us. Kelly has actually been a friend of mine for a number of years, but I also respect her a ton as a health and wellness, especially a mental health and wellness coach. She is the author of the Mind Your Gut book, which I was thrilled. I'm like, I actually have two copies of them, and I almost knew where they were. I was able to pinpoint them within a couple of books on the bookshelf. So, as I mentioned, Kelly is a mental health coach and trainer, and we're going to be talking today about stress and how to manage it, not only for ourselves, but also for our kids. But before we get into that, I do want to make sure if this is the first conversation you're tuning into, I mentioned it's part of Empowerthon. Empowerthon is the inaugural event that we're holding to fund the Parent Tween Foundation. The purpose of the Parent Tween Foundation is to help bridge the financial gap that inevitably exists between families and the help that they need. I see Kelly shaking or nodding her head because I know she sees it on a regular basis. So we're aiming to help be able to give scholarships. So if you're listening to this and you have ahas, those aha moments along the way, please be cognizant that we are going to ask you to make a donation, even if it's like $5. Every dollar helps to help families get the help that they need. So stay tuned for that. But Kelly, stress, it's everywhere. I just said to Kelly before we went live, I'm like, yeah, I don't stress about that. She's like, you don't? I was like, well, not that stuff, whatever it was we were talking about. So what are you seeing with people in stress at this point?
I mean, before COVID, people were stressed out, but that whole realm, of course, really ramped everybody up. And, some people are kind of back to their norm, but there are a lot of people who are not. And they're still trying to figure out, what this whole new thing is. And things are different. And, kids and tweens and teens have their mental health has really, gone downhill big time.
Absolutely.
They're really stressed out. And so I was seeing a lot of stressed out people before, but it's definitely gone way up, way up the scale for people.
Well, and we're seeing that across the board, especially for teenagers, right? That like visits to ERs for mental health crises are through the roof astronomically. We're hearing more kids talking about self-harm. We're hearing more and more about kids feeling anxious and depressed. And unfortunately, we're also seeing, we're seeing that suicidal ideation is not decreasing at the very least.
No, not at all.
Having these conversations about empowering our folks, ourselves as the adults, but also the teens and tweens in our worlds to help mitigate their stress is super important. We actually had a conversation yesterday with a woman who was talking about the impact of food specifically on, which I know you get into as well. I mean, obviously the name of your book is Mind Your Gut. So clearly there's a lot of talk lately about the stomach brain or the gut brain axis. But we're going to go a little bit broader than that today, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
One of the points that I love that you talk about is like how to make deposits into your resilience account, if you will. So like you look at it like a bank account that like stress takes things out. How can we refill the bank account?
Exactly. Yes.
So what are some ways that we can do that, or what do you recommend?
So, I just want to expand just a tiny more on what you just said. So it is like, if people just keep taking stress in, but they aren't finding a way to get rid of the stress, get it out of their body, get it out of their whole system, calm the nervous system down, then it just keeps building up. And, sure, a lot of people, when they hear, well, yeah, of course I'm stressed out. Everyone is. Well, but I want people to not take that so lightly, because it's really harming your body and your brain, your mental, emotional, everything. So yeah, making those deposits would be, kind of doing the self-care items.
Sure.
And that way when shit hits the fan,
Mhm.
if you have made deposits into that account and you are feeling pretty good, when
Mhm.
things go haywire, you don't go so crazy over them and you don't get as stressed out about it. But if you're depleted in that whole area and you're slugging around and you're tired and you're exhausted and you've been stressed out for days or weeks or months, and then something really bad goes on, I mean, you're just basically unable to handle it. Like you're
Mhm.
just, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, the more deposits we can make for that, the better.
What are
So,
some of your favorite ways and or ways that you find that are easy? Because like you're telling me, okay, I'm stressed, and you're telling me, well, do all these other things to help for down the road. And you're like, I just don't give a rat's patootie about down the road because
mhm,
right now I cannot freaking navigate life.
right.
So like what are some things that we can do now when the world is going haywire and
Mhm,
we're going haywire to at
right.
least lessen the haywire?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Well, okay. So, some things, for making the deposits, and that is also going to help if you're stressed. Getting out in nature, super helpful. Getting out for a hike. No, that does take time and not everyone can do it.
Right.
Even a 10-minute walk, though, in your neighborhood. You can just get
Mhm.
out, get amongst the trees, hear the birds, see some bunnies, whatever it is that's by
Mhm.
you. And that is calming. And
Mhm.
that's making some deposits without taking a lot of time.
Mhm.
As far as you could get out in your yard and ground your feet, just take
Mhm.
off your socks, get out, ground your feet. It's amazing how quickly, like 10 or 15 minutes of that can make a big difference. If you're going to be sitting scrolling on your phone, I don't recommend it, but if you are, then you could go outside, ground your feet while you're doing that. And you're actually,
Interesting.
kind of counteracting.
Right, right. I also think like one of the things that I really enjoy is taking a shower.
Oh,
That,
me too.
and I like to add a visualization in it of like not
Mhm.
only is it like washing the body, but
Mhm.
that like somehow it's also taking all the yuck.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Sometimes just that visualization, even if it doesn't actually take the tangible yuck, like when I get out of that shower, that stuff is still going to be there. The kids or
Yep.
the dogs or the husbands or
Sure.
the wives or the work or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But at least if I can visualize like that I'm under a waterfall or something, and it's at least like calming like
Mhm.
the energy a little bit, I
Oh, yeah.
feel that much more capable of dealing with all the yuck when I get out.
Absolutely. And I'm with you there. I love a shower. It is so relaxing to me. I do some of my very best thinking in the shower
Mhm.
because I'm just relaxed. And so
Mhm.
just like free flow in the mind.
Mhm.
And I love to add essential oils in the shower, or
Mhm.
they have, the fizzy, like a bath bomb, but it's for the shower. You can put that in.
Right.
So relaxing. And, again, it doesn't have to take a lot of time.
Mhm.
So that's a
Is
really
there
good one.
What would you recommend? Because, like, more than likely, like, my kid isn't gonna now, full disclosure, anyone watching, I don't actually have children, so when I say my kid, I mean, like,
Yeah.
the world's
At
children,
large,
right?
the kid.
Right, the
Yeah.
children at large.
Mhm.
My kids are my dogs who are hopefully gonna be quiet for the
Right.
duration of our conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, my child isn't necessarily gonna see me in the shower, right?
Right.
They don't necessarily see me doing that visualization. So
Mhm.
what are some things like if I can't hike? Okay, so you mentioned like grounding, taking the socks off, going and like squishing your toes in the grass. What
Mhm.
are some other things that we can do? Number one, to model for the kids in our world, but
Right.
also to involve them
Mhm.
in that depositing, making deposits into the account, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a few things to talk about, like for if you are stressed out.
Mhm.
But one of these it really goes both ways. Actually, a couple of them do. So I'll talk about a couple of these because they are for deposits, but they are as well for if you are anxious, if you are really stressed out, even if you're angry. These couple of things are real helpful. So a lot of people know different breathing techniques, but one of my very favorite is the 4-4-6 breath. And that's where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and you breathe out for 6.
Mhm.
And so you want your exhale a couple seconds longer. And, but not only are we just breathing, we're not just breathing, but we're doing deep diaphragmatic breathing. So, you know, when we breathe in, we're letting the belly relax and bringing the air all the way up. And then when we exhale, we're bringing all the way down and then compressing that belly in. And we're doing four in, 4 hold, 6 out. And that's a great one. Any like 8-year-old can do that. So teens and tweens can do it. And a great part of this for a lot of people is people don't even know they're doing it, so that you can just do it.
Right.
You know, it's great if you can just take a few minutes and just sit down, even like 2 or 3 minutes can make a huge difference and reset that nervous system just by doing that. It fools the body into thinking you're calm, you're all right.
You know, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because breathing has definitely become kind of my go-to when I do get amped up. And it has been for years. And I remember when I used to work in an office, you know, when I didn't have my own business, when I worked for another employer, if I'd get frustrated either from a colleague or a manager or a client, if I had a rough client, I would actually go to the bathroom. Because like not only can people not see you, but at least that way you've also got like this stall around you. And
you're just
while you're there, whether you actually need to, you know, have any elimination or not, it's an easy place to just go, and it's a reasonable place to escape for a couple of minutes if you need to.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, then if you add this breathing in, it's very helpful. And yeah, so parents and kids can do this together. And then once the kids know, like if they're at school and they're anxious or somebody has just bullied them or whatever is going on, it's a tool they can use and nobody even knows they're doing it. And it helps to just calm them down.
Well, and what an interesting tool to employ if you're getting into a heated conversation, we'll call it, with your preteen or your tween, your teen.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And you can feel things escalating. I imagine it could be effective to be like, okay, I mean, keeping in mind, we've had this conversation with other professionals as well, that like the prefrontal cortex is the last bit of the brain, the last bit of the body to develop. Right. And so presumably the adult in the family has one that is fully developed, but the kid does not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So given that, like, it's on the adult in the situation, at least as we start learning this, to have the cognizance to be like, okay, wait, you know what? This is about to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
Let's breathe.
Let's
count in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Yeah. And it can help to, I mean, the situation doesn't necessarily, whatever caused the heated conversation in the first place hasn't necessarily gone away.
Right.
But what a great tool to implement in the moment to be like, okay, wait, time out. Let's breathe. Let's get our brains back online.
Yeah, so exactly.
We can at least stop it from escalating further.
More. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good one.
So breathing. What else you got?
So I really like this one for if it really has heated up and people are upset, they're angry, they're anxious, whatever that is, like really, you know, they're in fight or flight, basically having this argument or whatever it is. 90 seconds of vigorous movement will actually reset the nervous system as well. And I don't mean you get up and you just kind of do this, but like you go crazy. You do 90 seconds of just dancing around just as fast and crazy as you can for 90 seconds, because that emotion needs motion to move out. And so
I visualize like pinching pillows or something, or like stomping my feet on the ground, or like going outside, maybe like grounding and stomping my feet on the ground or something like that. Okay. 90 seconds allows the body to process things.
Right. And get that negative energy moving, you know, otherwise it's just stuck there and you're sitting there arguing with this energy. You know, you go get that out. You're going to at least calm down. You're going to get that emotion moved out, and then you can, you know, get back online, like you say, and have that conversation again.
I can visualize families going out and purchasing punching bags.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a good one.
And honestly, we used to have a punching bag and I absolutely loved it. It was such a good workout, but man, it didn't matter how angry at the world I might have been. A few well-placed punches and kicks felt so good.
Yeah, that's great.
So breathing, the 4-4-6. 90 seconds of vigorous movement, vigorous, I don't want to call it exercise because that has, for some people, that has a negative connotation, but vigorous movement.
Movement, just movement. Yeah. So another really good one. So part of that gut brain connection is really, there's many factors, but it highly runs on the vagus nerve. And one way to stimulate that is for humming, and not just a hum, but you're going to hum, and you're going to hum loud, and you're going to move the hum from the front to the back, up, way back in the throat, almost like you're gargling, but not. I'll kind of demonstrate just for a second. So you're getting kind of that whole palate involved, which is going to stimulate the vagus nerve. And that's a really good one to just keep everything working right between that gut and brain. So you're actually, you know, helping that communication better. Because the other thing is, when people are all upset and things, you know, anxiety, upset with teenagers, they're often angry or mad at mom and dad. And imagine that.
It is, and right?
Because mom and dad don't know anything.
Right.
But if you get that connection moving better, that's super helpful. 80% of your dopamine, 60% of your dopamine and like 80 of your serotonin are actually produced in the gut, and then they go to the brain. And so if you're helping that whole system work better, then you're actually helping your brain, which is going to help your, your thinking, your cognitive, your emotions, all of that. So that's a really good one to do.
Well, and I like that because all of these so far, Kelly, are very approachable. Now, I might look like a weirdo or sound like a weirdo doing some funky humming sitting at my desk, right? Like if my boss walks by, like, what are you doing? So maybe I need to leave the room for that. And I probably don't want 90 seconds of banging on a wall at the office or at school.
No,
but
not that one.
Like, what if we have, like, we can teach our kids? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who was like, my kid got called down to the principal's office again. You know, and he's not a bad kid. He's navigating ADHD, and he was struggling with something, that week, whatever it was. But like, how cool would it be if he knew, hey, I can go hum and I can move it all around my face so that, like, while I'm at the principal's office, at the very least, I can like calm myself down so that I'm not all amped up when they call mom.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I like. I've come up with a lot, and in my book, I have like each chapter at the end has a stress buster, because I really am about helping people with practical things they can do, not some really big, long, thing. I want people to infuse these little things throughout their day, and then their day goes better, their evening is better, and that stress hasn't built up through the day to where, they have a rotten evening.
Well, because then so often, we've had anybody who has ever cohabited, excuse me, with somebody else, right? You have a rough day at work, you don't find a way to shed the stress, and then you take it home and your roommates just irritate you, or your partner does, or God knows your kids do. I see that all the time, right? And then you're not in a space to navigate that. And if it's a roommate, like maybe temporary situation, but like partners, kids, like probably a longer term scenario here, right? Like, how can we navigate that transition better? So cool.
Yeah, super helpful. Awesome. Well, and like the breathing, the humming, you can do that in the car on the way home. So those are great.
And is it specifically humming, or is it like vocalizing in general? Because I mean, I'm a singer, and so part of the warm-ups that I do on a regular basis, well, mostly regular basis, involve humming as well. So I think maybe that's part of why generally I feel like I have a comparatively low stress level, like compared to what it used to be.
Right.
But it can, like, does singing, what does singing do?
Absolutely. Because, even that, you're moving all that in the palate of the mouth when you're singing. Absolutely. Because another good one to stimulate that vagus nerve is actual gargling, similar, again. So singing, absolutely, but like if you're gargling, the same thing. And you really want to like exaggerate the whole thing, not just a little, yeah.
You
Do that
mentioned the vagus
exaggeration.
nerve a couple times. One thing that actually a friend of mine who's also another friend of mine who's in the therapy world recommended that an ice pack on the chest can also help like down regulate. Is that something that you've seen?
That is a good one as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's, I mean, you're probably not sitting at your desk with a with an ice pack on, or like, your kid doesn't have it necessarily like while they're at school about to get called down to the principal's office. But it's a good thing to know. Again, if you're in that space, like, here, just take the ice pack. Like, you don't need to talk. You don't need to say anything. Just put the ice pack on your chest for a couple of minutes, and that'll probably help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. I love stress management stuff. What else you got, friend?
Cool. So another really good one is it's like you're going to hug yourself, and then you're going to rub down your arms, and really like a minute of that can make a huge difference as well. It's called havening.
I've never heard of that. That's fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have to try it later because I look like a goober, but but really just a few of those. And like, I literally could just feel myself calm down. Like, just, it makes a huge difference. For one, it's kind of that, like, it's a self hug, like your body is feeling like you're being hugged, right? So that human touch part. And then once you're relaxing that down, yeah, huge. It's a really good one.
So is it more important to do it like at the same time, or could like one at a time?
You could do it one at a time. Sure. Absolutely.
Because I just thought of that. A kid's
try it out and see.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Just try it and see how each one feels to you. Yeah. You'll notice a difference.
Because I used to actually facilitate a kid's mindfulness program. And one of the stories that we would use was like to imagine that you had a feather that you could just, like, holding a feather in your hand, that you could like, imagine that like whatever the yuck is that you're feeling, like if it was on your skin, it was a really cool visualization for the kids to take like a feather and just brush it off, whether there's actual physical contact or not. That can be effective.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I could sit here and absorb these ideas from you all day, Kelly.
Yeah. Well, see, and if people just use, like, if you have a list in front of you of 8 or 10 that ones you like, just a little list, then you could be like, okay, like 4 times today, I'm going to at least do one of these, just to, and then really you'll notice the difference when the evening comes, for sure.
I just had a thought that, like, for families who navigate difficult evening times, like bedtime routines, or even like, teenagers who are loath to bathe or shower in the evenings, right? Like, I know that it's like, dude, you're stinky. Go take a shower. Exactly. That like, if we do these kinds of things earlier on in the day, even just ourselves, then what kind of an impact could that have on an evening routine, huh?
Big time. Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it really does end up affecting everyone. Yeah.
It totally does. Well, and so often I have conversations with families and other professionals too, that it's like, look, we can't actually control the children in the world as much as we might like to think that we could, but we can, right? We can influence, and the way that we show up absolutely has an influence on them. So totally, like, the more that we can manage, even just, havening, hugging ourselves, we might feel kind of like Rain Man, but if it works, if it works and it helps us show up more positively, or at least less negatively, more neutrally. A lot of times we talk about, like, you can't necessarily go from the negative to the positive, but if you can get to neutral, then you can manage more effectively. And gosh, you've given us some good stuff to help us get to neutral.
Awesome. I'm glad. Thank you.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add that you were like, I got to make sure that we include this for our conversation today?
I don't think so right offhand. I mean, I have several other things I could tell about, but I think we're good.
Awesome. All right. So I can't imagine that anyone watching this hasn't gotten an aha moment or gotten something that they can take and implement pretty effectively in their families. I'm going to give another quick shout out. Kelly's book is Mind Your Gut. What's the best way that they can get a copy of this if they're interested, Kelly?
So they could contact me, or they can go to mindyourgutbook.com.
Okay. And it's just literally that title with the word book after it.com. Right. And also, if you're in our Facebook group, leave a comment there. Kelly is also in our Facebook group, so she can answer you. You can connect with her there as well. Or again, mindyourgutbook.com. But yeah, if you're listening, you're watching this, and you've gotten ahas, if you would, please take a moment, follow the link in the description to Kelly's fundraising page. All of our speakers have said that they're going to try to at least help us raise $100 each, because if we can get to 100 speakers and $100, that gives us $10,000 of foundational money for the foundation, or like seed money for the foundation. We just got our approval as a nonprofit at the right around the holidays between 2022 and 23. So we're, there's certainly expenses involved in getting things up and running so that we can help families. So Kelly, thank you for being you. Thank you for being my friend and a professional and doing what you do, and for giving us your time today. I know folks are going to learn from it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with you, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a great one.